We start laughing at Phil Dunphy's parenting in episode 1 of Modern Family. He tells us,
I'm the cool dad, that's my thing. I'm hip.
And it's funny because right away we know that Phil isn't cool in the traditional sense of the word. It's reinforced over and over again that he's incredibly nerdy, with slightly weird interests and goofy tendencies. And yet over 11 seasons, we come to agree with him. He might not be a cool guy, but he is a cool dad.
Fact, I am the cool dad.
He's a new, better revamp of the bumbling dad trope, and in the years since Modern Family ended, we can see this cool dad legacy expanding through new iterations. So here are Phil Dunphy's 7 lessons on how to ace parenting by making it fun, gentle, and packed with Phils-osophy.
Phils-osophy, a hardbound collection of all the life lessons I've learned.
Hear us out. Phil's uncoolness is actually cool. No, we don't specifically mean the cheerleading or the magic, but the fact that he's maintained such varied interests long into adulthood is an important part of his parenting persona. Hollywood is packed wall to wall with bumbling dad characters, guys who sit back and crack open a beer and let their wife do all the childcare, or sometimes take care of them too.
Let's get some beer in you and then it's right to bed.
Woohoo! Beer, bed.
That's not Phil. He pursues his interests from tech to tightrope walking. And that gives his kids really important lessons on not giving up, on finding joy in everyday things, and being brave.
All week long, I've been telling my girls how to act instead of showing them. But not Phil. Instead of talking the talk, Phil walked the walk.
From cartoon characters like Homer Simpson and Peter Griffin to sitcom favorites like Ross Geller, the bumbling dad is traditionally a punchline. Though in more dramatic looks like Tully, the useless video game addicted father represents something sinister about how we let postpartum women down.
I wouldn't ever expect her to drive drunk like that, or leave the house without telling me so no one's watching the kids.
But weren't you home?
Yeah.
Phil might seem to be bumbling on the surface, take his attempt at smooth-talking Claire when they're role-playing, and accidentally insulting her.
She's so very beautiful. Why are you here with me?
Because she's always so tired and she's always making lists of things for me to do.
Maybe if you did them, she wouldn't be so tired.
But there's something very important that sets him apart from other bumbling dads on screen. His presence. Phil is always physically around, for Claire and for the kids. And he's mentally present. He connects with all 3 of his children on their level. He takes time out of whatever it is he's doing to make sure his kids are comfortable.
Always keep the rhythm in your feet. Then we're gonna add just a little party in the shoulders, all right? Now let's get those arms going.
This dad who plays has been taken further as an archetype since Phil in examples like Bluey's dad, Bandit. He's the modern kids show update to what Phil showed us. The most important thing kids really want from their parents is simple but hard: to be there and make fun moments. Phil and Claire have a classic good cop, bad cop dynamic, and Phil gets the easy ride. He's the fun parent.
Hey guys, guess who's taking you go-karting today?
Hey. Why? Are we in trouble?
But part of his character arc is that he comes to accept that he has the easy ride.
I don't like being you.
Oh. Nobody does.
He doesn't have to change into a disciplinarian, but he does need to balance fun with setting boundaries. And being the fun parent doesn't mean he shirks being serious when he has to be. In Phil's case, he's forthcoming with important advice for his kids, and he's unafraid to share his raw emotions too.
You have value, talent, and potential that their tests can't measure. Who cares if you don't fit into their little box? You're finding your way. That's what your 20s are for. To take chances, to make mistakes and to learn from them.
This puts Phil in a different category to many other on-screen dads. In movies from The Little Mermaid to Meet the Parents, fathers are shown to flex their authority and treat their daughters particularly like pure virginal princesses. They'll act terrifyingly to protect their little girls.
But frankly, sir, I'm a little terrified of being your son-in-law.
But Phil acknowledges that his children are human, capable of making mistakes and their own decisions too. Phil does step up to protect his children too, but in a warmer, more emotionally open way. One of Phil's most spectacular parenting moments is when Haley is trying to get a rise out of both of her parents with a gross older guy. Claire's parenting playbook is passed down from her dad, and that means she calls her kids bluff.
Trust me, the more it bothers you, the longer he stays. The more we ignore it, the sooner Willie Nelson's on the road again.
But Phil isn't like Jay. He's much more sensitive, and he needs his children to know he loves and supports them.
Nice game of chicken, Claire. She's gone.
She is coming back, I am almost positive.
Actually, that's a super important thing for kids to know. Often, when they're trying to push their parents' buttons, children are looking for the security of boundaries. We see this at the end of the scene. Claire's right. Haley does come back. But Phil doesn't know and is livid that his gut instinct to protect his child has been overridden.
Give me the ticket for the car.
Phil?
No, I'm going after her. This little chicken game may work for your dad, but it doesn't work for me. That's my little girl. What's this?
Just enjoy it.
So, what makes him a great dad is this combination of fun, boundaries, and an openness that provides his children a sense of respect. It's played as a joke, but Phil describes his style of parenting as peerenting.
Act like a parent, talk like a peer. I call it peerenting.
Actually, according to psychologists, this is a great strategy. Speaking to your child as though they're an equal builds their self-esteem and their trust in you, which in turn means they're more likely to let you guide them. And many of Phil's parenting strategies appear on UNICEF's list of ways to talk to your teen. He communicates with his kids through what's interesting to them. So, for example, he finds out Alex is unhappy at college.
Sometimes I feel like I just went through the 4 best years of my life, only I forgot to make them the 4 best years of my life.
He taps into her competitive nature and fierce intellect and makes her take on a trivia challenge with him. And he listens to and validates their emotions.
I know it hurts now, sweetheart, but that's how you know it was a relationship worth having.
Thanks, Daddy.
Phil gives great advice. He loves to impart his wisdom to his kids, like when he gives Haley a hardbound book of lessons when she goes off to college.
If you get pulled over for speeding, tell the policeman your spouse has diarrhea. Phils-osophy.
And even though it can sound silly, his thoughtful nature means he often creates really special moments and lessons for all 3 of his children.
Dad, I really like that book. I love you guys.
Still, he definitely isn't perfect. One example is when he becomes visibly flustered when he finds out Haley lost her virginity. When he's talking to the camera about it, he plays out how he'd like it to have gone, and acknowledges that he didn't live up to his own standards.
I can't say that I'm thrilled to hear this, but I'm sure you're being safe, and I hope that you'll feel free to talk to me about this anytime.
Importantly, though, he reflects on how he handled the situation and learns from it. It's a really important scene for 2 reasons. Firstly, because it shows us that even great parents make mistakes.
Fact. I blew it.
And secondly, because we get to see how Haley perceived the situation. Instead of giving her the speech he wishes he did, he asks her to go grab a table for them in the food court.
Do you want the counter or a booth?
Whatever seems right to you. I trust you.
And actually, his response is just what she needed.
I have a cool dad.
Sometimes, Phil seems almost absurdly sunny-natured. It's particularly stark in relation to Claire's more negative outlook.
No, Phil, I can't. I am tired and I am sweaty. And as much as I have tried to stay positive like you all day, I think sometimes we need to just face certain facts.
But as well as being uplifting to watch, Phil's optimism is actually a really important part of how he parents. Sociologist Christine Carter writes that there's a close link between how optimistically kids think and how healthy and happy they are. And she goes on to say that one of the best ways we can foster optimism in our children is to model it ourselves.
Remember, keep a positive attitude and good things will happen.
By the end of the show's run, the Dunphy family have gone from the traditional working dad and stay-at-home mom setup to Claire being the breadwinner, and Phil taking more of a backseat financially. And this is another way he's a great dad and partner. He's not worried about being emasculated. Unlike a lot of on-screen dads, he isn't aloof or hands-off. He genuinely loves his family and wants to be as involved with them as possible. This means he is happy to take on more of a role at home when Claire wants to go back to her career. But he also does a lot of care work when he has a full-time job, too.
Nice try. You're grounded for 2 weeks.
He's unfazed by gender stereotypes and is the more emotionally intuitive side of the partnership. He loves to buy Claire thoughtful gifts, for example, and masks his frustration when she buys him total flop gifts.
You're so sweet and nice, and I can't even give you a decent anniversary present.
Accepting that they don't fit gender norms shows their kids that they don't have to have typical relationships either. That the most important thing, when it comes to family, friends, and life, is finding joy.
Your dad is the nicest, most positive person I know, and he always helps me find the fun in life.
In many ways, Phil was a new kind of TV dad. He wasn't macho or controlling, absent, or a complete buffoon. On the contrary, he was always there. He was supportive, kind, and generous. He never failed to put his family first. And on top of it all, he was really, really nerdy. And all of these genuine, fairly uncool traits are what made him cool. That's The Take. Click here to watch the video we think you'll love, or here to check out a whole playlist of awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications.